Okay, so now that we've looked at what the different columns here mean and the different formulas for calculating them, we're going to look at what each one of these looks like within a graph. So we're starting with the average fixed cost curve. So if we look at the fixed costs and the average fixed cost here, what we can see is the numbers are decreasing all the time. And that's exactly what happens in our average fixed cost curve. So when we see the graph, it's a downward sloping curve. Why is that? Well, if we look at even at the formula, our fixed costs are always going to remain the same, but the quantity in which we are dividing them by is increasing. So we know from maths that if the number underneath the line goes up and the number on top of the line remains the same, our answer is going to become smaller and smaller and smaller as the number below the line increases. So here, obviously, if we have to pay rent to a factory at €50, whether we produce 1 unit or 5 units, so it's a fixed cost. So if we were to divide that cost into the goods that we produce, well, it's actually going to cost us an awful lot less per item we produce if we produce more. Our average variable cost then, so again, we'll look up here and we'll see what happens. So average variable cost. So what we can see here is we can see it going down. Okay, then it stays the same, then it increases, and then it jumps when we skip a couple of steps. So what happens with our average cost curve is initially the average costs go down, but then they start to climb back up again. So here, this is what it looks like in the form of a graph, in a very, very untidy graph. So there is an initial drop before sloping upwards. So we have that little drop first, and then our average variable cost curve starts to slope upwards. And the reason that is because, as you can imagine, if our production is increasing, our costs are increasing. And initially, we might save money. It could be economies of scale and such things. But initially what's going to happen is those things will show themselves in that drop. So it's going to cost less to produce those first few goods. But as we produce more and more and more, we're using more raw material, we're using more electricity, we might have to pay more people. So our variable costs, our average variable costs begin to rise. Okay. Now, 3 things then from here. So we have our marginal cost and average cost. So there are 2 things that are quite closely intertwined, and we have to understand the relationship between them. So our average cost, if our marginal cost is less than our average cost, that means that our average cost is falling. So an example of this. So this is Tom. So Tom makes 2 tables. He's a carpenter and he makes 2 tables. His average cost is €45, which means that for him to produce these 2 tables, it costs him, his total costs are 90. Tom is considering to build a 3rd table. So he knows that the extra or the marginal cost to produce that 3rd table is €30. So what does that mean? Well, his marginal cost is 30. His average cost is 45. So his marginal cost is less than his average cost. So that means that if he wants to make a profit, he can produce that table. So to work out his new figure then, his new cost or his new average cost, it's going to be our €90. Where do we get 90 from? Well, he's currently making 2 tables with an average cost of 45. So we're going to times that 45 by 2 to give us our 90. We're going to add on the marginal cost of making that 3rd table, and we're going to get 120. And then we divide that 120 by 3, which is our new quantity, and that's going to give us 40. So we can see here that the marginal cost is less than our average cost. So because that's bringing down, so our average cost is falling, it's going from 45 to 40, our average cost is falling, therefore we know that our marginal cost is less than our average cost. In the middle one then, our average cost is equal to our marginal cost is equal to our average cost. So what does that mean? It means our average cost is staying the same. So we're going back to our example of Tom here. So Tom is producing 3 tables. His average cost of the 3 tables is €40. Okay, so we're literally just taking that figure and bringing it down here. Our average cost of producing 3 tables is €40. Tom's now thinking, can I make a 4th table? So we're told that his marginal cost of producing that 4th table is €40. So as his marginal cost is equal to his average cost won't change. So even if we take that 40 and we work out his new cost, which we can do now. So his average cost is €40 and he's making 3 tables. So we have to say 40 multiplied by 3. So that's going to give us 120. We then add on the extra €40 for the 4th table, which is going to give us 160. And then we divide that by 4, which is our new quantity because it's the 4th table. And that's going to give us 40. So we can see that this is his new average cost, which is the same as his marginal cost. So this is true. His average cost and his marginal cost are equal. And the last one here then, so the marginal cost is greater than average cost. So if that's the case, that means that our average cost is rising. Now we have Tom producing 4 tables. His average cost is €40, which we worked out up here. He's thinking now of producing a 5th table. So we're told his marginal cost of producing that 5th table is €50. So now what's happening, our marginal cost is now greater than our average cost. So should he do it, or should we know about it? Well, the average cost of producing 4 tables is our €40. So the average cost will rise. If he produces that extra 5th table, his average cost will rise from €40 per table to €42 per table if he produces that 5th table. So 3 things there we have to know, those 3 in purple, okay, just to be aware of what they actually mean.